Thank you, Mr Acting Deputy President. I move that the Senate take note of answers given by Senator Brandis to questions from me on control orders. Mr Acting Deputy President, I asked Senator Brandis repeatedly whether he could provide evidence that might exist that extending the application of control orders to children as young as 14 in Australia would make Australians safer or make Australia a safer place. And unfortunately, the Attorney was manifestly unable to offer any evidence whatsoever to support these proposed changes. In fact, what he did was again try to link the proposals that he dropped in a media release on Monday evening to the tragic recent shooting of Curtis Cheng in Parramatta. Now, it's my understanding, based on reports, that there is no evidence that the perpetrator of that shooting was known to authorities, and it is instructive that when the Prime Minister was asked at a media event yesterday about these proposed changes, he did not go anywhere near the shooting in Parramatta. He did not use it as a rationale. In fact, he was at pains to say that these proposed changes had been discussed through the COAG process for many months. And I acknowledge that Senator Brandis mentioned that almost in passing in his answer. But the point here is, Mr Acting Deputy President, that these changes further— I'm sorry, Mr Deputy President, I do apologise, sir. The point is that these changes do erode fundamental civil and human rights in Australia, and Australians have fought and died to protect and enhance these fundamental rights over many generations in this country. And if we're going to keep eroding them, and the Greens don't support the continued erosion of these rights, but if we're going to keep eroding them, at least have the common decency to make the case to the Australian people. And don't try to erode these rights without any evidence whatsoever that they will make Australia a safer place. Now, I believe that these proposed changes will in effect turn Australia's so-called anti-terror laws into a more draconian suite of laws than currently exist in any other liberal democracy in the world. And senators need to ask themselves the question: do they believe the level of risk in this country is so high as to justify Australia having the most draconian so-called anti-terror legislation in the world? Because I don't think the facts back up the changes that the government is proposing. And I don't believe the government has put any evidence before the Australian people that would back up the continued further erosion of fundamental civil and human rights in this country. The Greens will stand up for these rights, and in the absence of any evidence whatsoever to demonstrate a need for change in this area, we won't be supporting the reforms. And that is because we understand that when you provide governments and authorities with extra powers, there is unfortunately an increase in the likelihood that those powers will be abused. And we see time after time authorities abusing power, not just in Australia but right around the world. We've seen corruption and we've seen other power abuses over a long period of time in this country, and it is the job of this parliament to be the guardian of civil and human rights in this country by ensuring that we have strong laws that protect those rights, but also that we do not allow those rights to be eroded unless there is demonstrated need, and the government has manifestly failed to make the case for change in this context.
Thank you, Senator McKim. The question is the